The mysterious crash, the snow-covered plains stretched far and wide, a never-ending white wilderness. The wind howled through the frozen landscape, carrying with it a sense of isolation. Everything was still silent. It was as if the world itself that paused, holding its breath in the cold, vast emptiness. Then, from the sky, a flash of light pierced the thick clouds. It was quick, so quick that it almost seemed like an illusion. A fiery streak shot through the sky, burning bright against the gray backdrop of the clouds. For a moment, there was nothing but a trail of light. And then, with a sudden crash, the object slammed into the snow. The force of the impact sent up a cloud of snow, covering the surrounding area. The air was filled with the sound of rushing wind and the smell of something ferrence, something metal. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the soft whisper of the wind. As the snow began to settle, something strange appeared in the middle of the wreckage. The object that had crashed was unlike anything seen on Earth. It was shaped like a small craft, round and sleek, with strange markings along its surface. It shimmered in the cold light, almost as if it were alive. The wreckage was scattered across the snow, but something inside it was moving. Slowly it began to stir. From the wreckage, a small figure crawled out. At first it was hard to make out its features, hidden under a layer of snow and smoke. But as the mist cleared, the figure stood up, small, fragile, and utterly alien. The creature had an unusual shape, standing on two legs but with a body much smaller than any human's. Its skin was a pale blue, almost translucent, and its large eyes were the color of deep space, black with tiny specks of silver that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly glow. The creature shivered, its tiny hands reaching out to steady itself against the wreckage. Its breath came out in visible puffs of mist, the cold air biting into its exposed skin. The alien child looked around, confused and disoriented. It had no idea where it was, how it had gotten here, or even what had happened. Its tiny heart raced with fear, but there was something else, a sense of determination deep within its chest. The crash had been violent, and it was lucky to be alive. But the alien child wasn't one to give up easily. It took a few tentative steps forward, its small feet sinking into the snow with each movement. The world was so vast, so quiet. The child felt a sense of loneliness wash over it. There was no one in sight, only endless white and the faint sound of wind. The alien child pulled its coat tighter around itself, trying to keep warm. Its body was small, and the cold seemed to bite deeper with every second that passed. The child's eyes scanned the horizon, searching for something, anything that might help. But all that met its gaze were more snow-covered hills and distant mountains, their peaks hidden in the clouds. No signs of life, no shelter, just the snow. The alien child began to walk, its movements slow and careful. Every few steps it looked back at the wreckage, wondering if there was more to discover. But the crash had left nothing useful behind, just broken pieces of strange technology and a thick cloud of smoke rising from the wreck. The cold was relentless. The wind howled again, pushing against a small figure. It stumbled a little, its tiny hands reaching out for support as it tried to keep its balance. The child didn't stop though. It couldn't. The survival instinct was strong, even in something so small. After what seemed like hours of walking, the alien child came to a halt. A strange sound broke through the howling wind, low and distant at first, but growing louder with every passing second. It was a deep rumble, almost like the growl of an animal. The child froze, its heart pounding in its chest. Its large, glowing eyes scanned the landscape, searching for the source of the noise. There, just beyond the snowbank, shadows began to form. Large shapes moved through the white wilderness, their forms becoming clearer. The child could see them, no massive creatures with fur as white as the snow, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Lions, but not like any lions the child had ever seen. These were much larger, their muscles rippling under their thick fur, and their eyes held a primal, hungry look. The alien child felt a wave of panic rise within it. It knew what danger looked like, even if it had never encountered it before. The lions were not far now, their growls growing louder, their steps heavier. They were closing in, their eyes locked on the tiny alien child, who had nowhere to run. Frozen in place, the alien child's mind raced. Its heart pounded, its small body shaking, not just from the cold but from the overwhelming fear of what was coming. The lions were moving closer with every second, and soon they would be upon it. The child's breath quickened. It wasn't sure what it could do. There were no weapons, no way to fight back. The alien child was small, fragile, and completely alone in a world it didn't understand. All it could do was wait. And then, just as the child braced itself for the worst, the ground beneath it trembled. It wasn't the lions. The child looked up, its eyes wide with fear and confusion. Something else was coming, something much bigger. The hungry lions. The cold wind howled through the snow as the alien child stood frozen, eyes wide with fear. The sound of deep growls echoed through the still air, growing louder with each passing second. The child looked up, its heart racing, and saw the massive lions, their white fur blending with the snow, their glowing eyes fixed on the tiny figure standing alone in the wilderness. The lions moved in slowly, their paws leaving heavy marks in the snow as they crept closer. There were 5 of them, and they looked huge, much larger than any animal the alien child had ever seen. Their eyes were full of hunger, and their sharp teeth gleamed in the dim light. It was clear that the lions had spotted their prey. The alien child felt a wave of panic rise inside. It had no way to defend itself, no way to escape. The cold seemed to press in from all sides, but the child couldn't move. Its small legs were frozen, its tiny body too weak to run. The lions were closing in, their growls getting louder, their movements silent and deadly. The child stumbled back, trying to find a way out, but the lions were already too close. The ground beneath the child's feet felt soft, and with each step it took, the snow seemed to sink deeper. It was trapped. The child's breath came out in sharp, quick bursts, forming clouds in the cold air. The lions circled it, their sharp claws scraping against the frozen earth. There was no way out. The alien child was all alone, and the lions were moving in for the kill. The fear was overwhelming, but even in the face of certain danger, there was a small part of the child that refused to give up. It had to find a way out. But how the lions were so much stronger, so much bigger. It felt so small and helpless. The child's eyes darted around, looking for anything that could help. But all it could see was snow, endless snow. The cold. It stung its skin, and the wind carried the sound of the lion's growls closer, filling the child's ears with a sense of doom. The first glimpse of hope just when the alien child thought there was no way out. Something strange happened. A sound cut through the air, a voice. It wasn't loud, but it was clear and full of authority. The lions stopped for a moment, their eyes flicking toward the source of the noise. The growls died down, replaced by a strange stillness. The alien child's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Was there someone else here? The voice called out again, but this time it was stronger, more confident. It didn't sound scared, like the child felt. The child's large eyes widened as it turned its head toward the direction of the sound. Through the swirling snow and the white haze, a shadow appeared in the distance, a figure moving steadily toward the child. At first, the figure was hard to make out. The snowstorm made everything blurry, but the child could see that it was much taller than anything it had seen before. The shape was human, dressed in something that shimmered, almost like a strange suit that glowed faintly against the snow. The human didn't seem afraid of the lions at all. In fact, it looked like the human was walking right toward them, as if nothing could stop it. The lions, sensing the new presence, growled again, but they didn't attack. They hesitated, clearly unsure of what to do. The human's steps were calm and steady, unaffected by the fierce creatures. The alien child felt a spark of hope, something it hadn't felt since the crash. Was this person here to help? Could this be the rescue it had been waiting for? The child's eyes followed the figure as it came closer, moving through the snowstorm with purpose. The lions continued to watch, but they didn't move any closer. There was something powerful about the human that made them hold back. As the figure drew nearer, the human's face became clearer, and the alien child saw something that filled it with more hope. The human didn't look like the animals or the strange cold world around them. The human looked strong, unafraid, and somehow familiar. The child wanted to believe that this person could help, that this person would save it from the lions. But how could a single human possibly defeat these beasts? The suspense filled the air. Would the lions attack, or would the human stand firm? The alien child could only watch, unsure of what was about to happen next. The hero emerged as the human came closer, and with each step, the lions seemed to grow more hesitant. Their growls faded, but their eyes stayed fixed on the figure. The alien child's heart raced, unsure whether this strange person could really protect it from the terrifying lions. The human's calm movements seemed to make the lions uncertain, like they didn't know what to expect. As the figure reached the child, it stopped. The human stood tall, its presence strong and confident. In the cold, the air seemed to buzz with tension. The lions, now only a few feet away, watched the human closely, their sharp teeth still visible. But they didn't attack. The human didn't say anything at first. It just looked at the lions, then slowly reached down to a device strapped to its waist. The alien child watched with wide eyes as the human pulled out something that glowed faintly in the dim light. An object the child had never seen before. It was a small, glowing tool that seemed to hum with energy. The human raised the device, and instantly a strange barrier of light appeared around the child, surrounding it with a soft, protective glow. The lions froze, clearly confused by the sudden change. They looked at each other and back at the human, unsure of what to do next. The light from the device grew brighter, and the lions stepped back, growling in frustration. The alien child couldn't believe what was happening. The human wasn't scared at all. The lions, huge and powerful, were now backing away from a single person. It was as if the human had something they didn't understand, something that made them stop in their tracks. The human turned to the child, their face calm, but there was a hint of reassurance in their eyes. It was like the human knew exactly what to do, and the child couldn't help but feel a small sense of relief. The lions were retreating, unsure how to deal with the glowing barrier. The human was protecting the child without even breaking a sweat. With the lions now a safe distance away, The human lowered the device and the protective light slowly faded. The lions didn't move any closer, but they stayed nearby, growling softly, still watching. The child, still in shock, looked up at the human, who now offered a small, confident smile. The situation wasn't over yet, but for the first time since the crash, the alien child felt like there might be a way out. The human didn't speak, but their presence said everything. It was clear the child was not alone anymore. Someone was here to help. The fight for survival. The moment the light from the human's device faded, the lions snarled, their hunger still burning. They weren't backing down. Instead, they circled closer again, their eyes never leaving the human. The alien child felt its heart race once more as it realized that the danger wasn't over. The lions were still determined to attack. The human didn't look afraid. They stood firm, ready to face the beasts. Slowly, they pressed a button on their device, and a bright energy shield appeared around them. The lions hesitated, confused by the shield. They growled louder, their patience running thin, but the human wasn't moving. Instead, they stood tall, a quiet confidence in their eyes. With a roar, one of the lions lunged forward, its massive claws swiping at the shield. The human didn't flinch. The energy shield held strong, and the lion bounced off with a yelp, surprised by the force of the barrier. The other lions, still watching, seemed to weigh their options, unsure whether they could break through this strange protection. The alien child watched, wide-eyed, as the human prepared for whatever came next. The lions were still circling, their eyes filled with anger, but the human wasn't backing down. The fight wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about showing these wild creatures that they were no match for this human's strength and will. Another lion charged, this time from the side. The human's hand shot out, and with a flash, the shield expanded, blocking the lion's attack. The creature crashed against it with a heavy thud, its claws scraping across the barrier but unable to break through. The lions snarled in frustration, now realizing they couldn't get past the human's defense. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down. The lion's attacks had no effect, and the human stood in the center, calm and unwavering. The alien child could see the human was not just fighting to survive, they were fighting to protect. The lions took one last look at the glowing shield, their growls turning into low, frustrated murmurs. Slowly they began to retreat, realizing they were no match for the power of the human's technology. They growled one last time before turning and disappearing into the snowstorm, leaving the human and the child alone once more. The alien child exhaled in relief. The danger had passed, at least for now. The human, still holding the glowing device, looked down at the child, their expression softening. It was clear that the human wasn't just a protector, they were a fighter. Someone who could handle whatever dangers came their way. The child took a small step forward, still unsure of what would happen next, but knowing, for the first time, that it wasn't alone in this strange world. The unexpected alliance, the snowstorm, had calmed, and the danger from the lions was over, but the alien child still felt uneasy. The humans stood nearby, their glowing device still in hand, looking at the child with a calm but serious expression. The lions were gone, but now the child had to figure out what came next. The child watched the human closely. What were they going to do now? The human had saved the child from the lions, but the alien child still didn't understand why. The human wasn't from the snow-covered land, and the child wasn't from this planet. They were both strangers here. The human stepped closer, and for a moment the child froze. Was this another trick? But the human didn't make any sudden moves. Instead, they knelt down in front of the child and gently offered a hand, as if to say, "It's safe now." The alien child hesitated but then slowly reached out and touched the human's hand. There was a strange warmth in the human's touch, something that made the child feel a little safer. The child could sense that the human wasn't an enemy, even though they were so different. The alien child felt something shift inside them, a small sense of trust beginning to grow. The human slowly stood up and motioned for the child to follow. The snow was still deep and cold, but the human had a direction in mind. With every step, the child felt more and more like they weren't alone in the world anymore. The fear of the lions still lingered in the back of the child's mind, but now there was something else: hope. The child watched the human move confidently through the snow, their figures strong and steady. The alien child followed, its small, the feet struggling to keep up, but the human's presence was enough to give the child the courage to keep going. For the first time since the crash, the alien child didn't feel completely lost. It still didn't know who the human was or why they were here, but in that moment, the child realized that they were no longer alone in this cold, unfamiliar world. There was an unexpected ally now, someone who would protect them and guide them through the dangers ahead. Together, they would face whatever came next. A new beginning. The snowstorm had finally cleared, and the world around them was still. The only sound now was the soft crunch of footsteps in the snow as the human and the alien child walked side by side. The lions were gone, and the danger had passed, but the child knew that there were still many unknowns ahead. The child looked up at the human, who walked confidently through the snow, leading the way. There was no fear in the human's eyes, only determination. The child felt a small spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, things could be different now. For the first time since the crash, the child didn't feel completely alone. Even though they didn't speak the same language, the child could sense that the human was someone who understood, someone who would protect them. The journey ahead was uncertain, but the child wasn't afraid anymore. With the human by their side, they could face whatever challenges came next. The cold wind still blew through the snow, but it didn't seem as harsh now. The alien child and the human walked together, each one taking steps toward something new. Whatever had brought the child to this strange world, it no longer mattered. What mattered now was that they had each other. And as they walked on, the alien child looked up at the human once more, feeling a quiet sense of trust. The beginning of something new had started, and this strange, frozen world didn't seem so cold and lonely anymore. Together they would face whatever lay ahead.